In 1980, mystery cryptic sound makers The Residents released the commercial album on Ralph Records, and from it, the track Moisture.
Someone saw a strange amount of moisture on her lips, and it was also seen upon her arms and on her hips. No one knows exactly who she was or how she died. But when they opened up her purse, they found a snail inside.
I guess it was their way of trying to do sort of like a kind of like a jazzy type tune. I'm hearing elements of like simulated. Their thing though oftentimes was to simulate rhythmic elements with like non-instruments and like approximate there were tracks where they would try and like create like wah sounds out of like oh, I don't know, vegetables or something. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of the Third Reich and Roll moment on there. Anyway, um, the silliest aspect of this number, of course, is the plot, which seems to involve a corpse that was found of someone whose identity cannot be determined. Um, it's been a long time since I found the video, but wasn't she found in a car? But anyway, the mystery might be in the snail, which could have been poisonous, or it could indicate that she went somewhere and got infected somehow. Anyway, someone on Genius.com says this song seems to contain a lot of double entendre. And that guitar solo was either played by Snakefinger or Fred Frith, possibly. They don't really. Credits are a mystery. So there's some guest people on here. Like, of course, no one knows the true identities of this. I just found out that the cover, that the two people on the background of the cover behind the upside down standing phantom members and their eyeballs is John Travolta on the left and Barbara Streisand on the right. Yeah, I never knew that till now, till I pulled this up on Discogs. Anyway, Love Is. There's a lot of complexity there. Three contradictory elements.
Love is only loneliness divided by another. Love is only living for the lonely. Love is only loneliness divided by another. And I know that life is lonely.
Oh, okay, and what I really love about that track is what we just heard, that flexaton like sound, or some effect employed like on a glockenspiel to kind of like this vibrato echoey effect. Yeah. Very Zolo-y. Yeah, that one of the more Zolo moments on a Residence album. And basically we had that row, row, that sound going against that bass line. Now the bass line and the that melody that I think that first sounded like it could have been like a xylophone setting on a keyboard on some cheap keyboard maybe. Those two created like some like harmonic counterpoint, colliding with that sound. And then let's see, what did they say during the break? Love is only loneliness divided by another. Love is only living for the lonely. Love is only loneliness divided by another. And I know that life is only not meant to be a maxim of any kind. Um, Oftentimes they just kind of say nonsense or they turn phrases on their side just to be funny, just or to be I don't know post-apocalyptic or anyway. And no idea who played on any of this. There are some other name players. Chris Cutler supposedly appears here. Yeah. Anyway, and Andy Partridge supposedly appears on here, although his name is not. That's something that I got from the old Trouser Press record guide. It doesn't say here on this Discogs, doesn't mention him. Although Partridge did put out an album very much in a Residence vein that year. Yeah, Take Away the Lure of Salvage. Yeah, really great experimental record. Let's hear another track, Perfect Love. Love that change.
There's something I must tell you, there's something I must say. The only really perfect love is one that gets away.
One of the most striking melodies on the whole album, and I love the key change underneath it, like how they take that theme and then shift the underlying chordal structure, and yeah, it lands on that like major seventh chord, I believe. Dun, 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 yeah, I think it goes from D to B major seven. Yeah, kind of a strange change. Usually, when you're in D, usually combinations of D and B go from like D major to B minor because B minor is the relative minor of D. Anyway, and I also like that sound. Once again, kind of a Zolo-y sound. That kind of blurry, sort of silvery type sound there. And hold on. Okay, maybe it wasn't necessary to go digging for the lyrics because yeah. There's something I must tell you. There's something I must say. The only really perfect love is the one that gets away. Yeah. Did I never even sat down to memorize it, but yeah, when it's only like one verse or like yeah, that would be like in an ordinary pop song that would be like one half of a verse. Yeah. Um, that actually makes sense what they're saying there. The only really perfect love is one that gets away. Yeah, the one who gets away is probably the best kind of love because it's the one that you idealize. Huh, I can actually take those lines seriously. Yeah. Because you never know you never end up knowing about the bad side of that person. You never end up it never just stagnated. It never, like, the relationship never formed and ultimately ran its course and stagnated and become as much a bad memory as a good one. Yeah, it went on just to linger on as the one that you've idealized your whole life. If only, you know. Yeah, maybe missing out on that was the ultimate missed moment of my life. Let's hear another track. Picnic Boy.
Called my friend a picnic boy. I never could stand that. Oh, she called my friend a picnic boy. Said he was too fat. Fat. I left her in the early morning, looking at the rain. I found I could not take the pressure, so I took the train.
Now, a lot of little, like, spinning toy like twirly sounds on there that they would use all over Tunes of Two Cities, the second in their Mole trilogy. Once again, a lot of Zolo-y noises going on, little, like, twirly tops and everything. Just one of the more complex numbers in that way, like, built over this kind of pensive bass line with sort of a dull note in it. And the somewhat disguised yet knowing her, recognizable if you're listening closely. That's the voice that had to have been Lena Lovitch. Yeah, who it was later revealed that she was on here. That was another thing that was, I think, maybe first revealed in the Trouser Press record guide, and then that's acknowledged here on Discogs. Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, Lena Lovitch and XTC, kind of the two most residency of the English new wave acts of that period. Like, as a matter of fact, there's this one interview I saw where Andy Partridge, circa like 1978 or so, around the time of Go To, the XTC's weirdest album, most strangest, most avant-garde album, said that he believes that the Residents is what the Beatles would have evolved into if they had continued. Although people were making those kind of claims back in those days to, like, everything that eventuated in the 1970s. Although it's that's kind of an odd route to take the analogy, but he was kind of using that to explain the mid point that XTC occupied at that point between the real avant-garde and the more structured pop elements, like of tracks like Mechanic Dancing, Battery Brides, I Am the Audience, you know. Anyway, let's hear one. Oh, and that may have had both. Picnic Boy may have actually had both Snake Finger and Fred Frith for all I know. I heard a lot of weirdness in there and quite a few instruments going on. Let's hear one more track from the commercial album, Secrets. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't read the lyrics here to Picnic Boy. She called my friend a picnic boy. I never could stand that. Oh, she called my friend a picnic boy, said he was too fat. I left her in the early morning looking at the rain. Oh, I found I could not take the pressure, so I took the train home. Huh. So that just seems to be about a spat between two girls. One girl doesn't like the other's boyfriend or whatever. Or, yeah. Anyway. Secrets. Snake Finger.
looking in a secret way. I thought that I might cut them deep.
Well, that develops. Yeah, just when you think you've heard it all, it just keeps on shifting and basically built on two distinct parts. Going from one to the other, and quite intricate. I liked how that plucked uh, guitar was interacting with that what sounded like a glockenspiel setting on a cheap keyboard. And let's see, something's going on between them, something I can see. Nobody seems to pay attention. So it's up to me. Huh, so a third party is watching two people that no one else cares about. So it's up to me. I'm wondering if that means he's about to take action and intervene on something. They're always touching, always looking in a secret way. I thought that I might cut them deep. It sounds like a jealous third party wants to kind of split up a couple. Secrets. I guess that title takes on a more ominous meaning if you probe into those lyrics. Yeah, it's amazing on the commercial album how they were able to come up with so many ideas and yet resist the temptation to maximize them. I mean, when the idea was to strip the the art of song making down to just one instance of each element that goes into a track. A verse and a chorus. Just have like one verse, one chorus, maybe one bridge, and then because the idea being that most pop songs were all those elements times three, thus the average pop song length of 3 minutes. If you only do each movement once, like ABC and then done, you're down to like a minute. And so every single track on the album is supposed to clock in a minute, although depending on what media you're, like if you're, oh, well, like on the CDs that came out in the 90s, they might clock in at like 104, 103. But anyway, that most a lot of acts would struggle. So basically, theoretically there's about 80 to maybe 120 distinct melodies on this album. Okay, some of the movements are just like goofy sound effects or cryptic noises or whatever, but most a lot of acts struggle to come up with even 20 distinct usable melodies, within the span of a year. And for an act to just confidently burn through a lot more of them and just use them only once and then be done. Or it's also amazing what they could do like in the span of just 30 seconds. It's like I would hear like a few passages, like in that last one anyway, play out maybe through like 4 repetitions, and I think, okay, the song must be over, at this point, or because how long can a minute last? And then it would go through a few more developments, and I'm thinking, it's amazing how long a minute can almost feel like when there's so many layers to unravel here. Yeah. Anyway, that was 5 from the Residents' commercial album. So 1/8 of the album, actually. Yeah. And they were quite prolific around this time, and just part of their charm was that no one knew who they were. We don't know what kind of people were. I mean, back in an era when people were obsessed with the cult of personality in bands, and people tended to audiences tended to idealize performers in a way that they wanted to think that their performers kind of lived the lifestyle portrayed in the put across in the music. That was especially true of like punk bands and metal bands and glam rockers to a certain extent. And with these guys, they could have been anyone. They could have been just as weird. They could have been these weird people that lived in these strange, caves and with all kinds of weird artwork around. And that acted really bizarrely, or they could have been the squarest people. They could have been like the family next door for all anyone knows. And I think that was what put them over the top globally in a way among cult listeners that yeah, if they had just been a bunch of regular people making weird music, or if they had been just a bunch of weird people making weird music, it wouldn't have gone nearly as far. Yeah. Anyway, for more Rubies and Sapphire minis from the commercial album, see the directory of albums from 1980, linked in the description below. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, share the video, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the 5 tracks we just heard, the layers, the meaning of the verses, however brief they came and went. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear-traveled trimaximalist, signing off.